Alex, there's a specific kind of quiet panic that only happens when you realize the 3 tons of gray sludge you just dumped in your backyard is starting to turn into a permanent geological feature and you aren't finished smoothing it yet.
That sounds like the beginning of a horror movie for homeowners. Is this why you've been staring at that bag of Quick-Rit in the corner like it's a ticking time bomb?
It basically is. Concrete is the only building material that has a literal countdown clock built into its DNA. Once the water hits the mix, the chemistry starts a race, and that stuff doesn't care if you need a bathroom break or if your back hurts. I remember my first solo pad. I thought I could just wing it like I do with a birdhouse. By the time I realized I needed a bull float, I was basically trying to level out a field of half-hardened lava with a 2x4.
And that is exactly why we are doing a deep dive today. We're talking concrete for beginners, because apparently, Tiger, winging it leads to a very bumpy patio that no lawn chair will ever sit flat on.
True, it's the ultimate measure twice, poor one sport. But if you get the prep right, it's actually incredibly satisfying. It's like baking a cake that you can eventually park a truck on.
Let's start at the very bottom. Every video I watched for this episode, from the Dirt Monkey to Mike Day, says the same thing. The concrete is only as good as what's underneath it.
Most people think the concrete is the strength. It's not. The ground is the strength. The concrete is just the wear surface. If you pour 4 inches of the best mix in the world over soft, spongy topsoil or a pile of loose leaves, that slab is going to crack the first time the ground heaves. You have to get down to the undisturbed soil.
So, you're saying I can't just clear the grass and call it a day?
Not unless you want a jigsaw puzzle in 2 years. You dig out the organic stuff, the roots, the sod, and you replace it with a solid base of crushed stone or gravel. You want something that drains. And this is the part people skip because it's boring, you have to pack it down like you're trying to crush a diamond. Rent a plate compactor. Don't try to stomp it down with your work boots. Your feet aren't heavy enough to simulate the weight of a slab.
Okay, so we've got a hole, we've got gravel, and we've vibrated the soul out of it with a compactor. Now we talk forms. I saw a lot of 2x4s in the research. Is that the gold standard?
For most DIY stuff, yeah. But the trick isn't just nailing 4 boards together. You're building a dam for liquid stone. Concrete is heavy, about 150 pounds per cubic foot. If your stakes are flimsy, that wet mud will push your forms out, and suddenly your square patio looks like a very sad pear. I like to use plenty of stakes, every 2 feet, and I drive them deep.
And the slope. I saw a note about 1 inch for every 10 feet. Why can't it just be perfectly level?
Because nature hates a vacuum and loves a puddle. If a slab is perfectly level, the water just sits there, stares at you, and eventually soaks in or freezes and pops the surface off. You want a gentle fall, just enough so a marble would slowly roll toward the yard.
Let's talk about the skeleton. Rebar, fiber, mesh. Do I really need metal inside my rocks?
Yes. Always. Look, concrete is amazing under compression. You can stack a mountain on it, but it's garbage at tension. It wants to pull apart. Rebar is the connective tissue that holds it together when the ground shifts.
But I see people just laying the rebar on the dirt and pouring over it. That seems wrong?
It's worse than wrong. It's useless. If the rebar is touching the dirt, it's just going to rust and do nothing. You need chairs, those little plastic or concrete blocks, to hold the steel right in the middle of the slab. It's like the bones in your arm. If your bones were on the outside of your skin, you'd have a hard time lifting a grocery bag.
Now we get to the scary part. The pour. I've seen 2 ways. The dry pour where you just dump bags and spray them with a hose, and the traditional wet mix. You're a traditionalist, aren't you?
Dry pouring has its place for a small fence post maybe, but for a slab, it's a gamble I'm not willing to take. You get air pockets, uneven hydration. It's just not a professional result. If you're doing a shed pad or a patio, you want that mix consistent.
Even if it means mixing 40 bags in a wheelbarrow?
If you do 40 bags in a wheelbarrow, your arms will be 3 inches longer by the time you're done. Rent a mixer, or better yet, if the project is big enough, call the ready mix truck. There's no shame in having a professional bring the mud to you. The stress level drops by about 70% the moment you see that chute swing out.
But the clock starts ticking the second it hits the ground. What's the first move once the mud is in the form?
Screeding, this is where you and a buddy take a very straight board, usually a 2x4, and you saw it back and forth across the top of the forms. You're basically using the forms as rails to strike off the excess. It's a workout. You're dragging a heavy wave of concrete in front of you. If you leave a low spot, you have to shovel a little back in and redo it. You can't just fix it later.
And then comes the bull float, right? The giant surfboard on a stick.
Exactly. This is the magic wand. When you push that float across the surface, it pushes the large rocks, the aggregate down, and brings the cream or the paste to the top. That's what gives you that smooth finish. But here's the mistake I see all the time. People keep floating it while there's bleed water on top.
Bleed water? Sounds ominous.
It's just the excess water rising to the surface as the solids settle. If you try to work that water back into the surface, you're weakening the top layer. You'll end up with a slab that dusts or flakes off next winter. You have to wait. You have to be patient. You go sit on the porch, have a lemonade, and wait for that shimmer to disappear.
This is the part of the videos where the pros start looking like Zen masters. The edging, the jointing. It looks so easy when Mike Day does it.
Mike makes it look like he's spreading butter on toast. For the rest of us, it's about timing. When you can press your thumb into the concrete and it only leaves a slight indentation, like a firm stake, that's when you get to work. You run an edger around the perimeter to give it that nice rounded professional lip, and you have to put in control joints.
Because it's going to crack anyway?
100%. Concrete is guaranteed to do two things: get hard and crack. A control joint is just you telling the concrete where you want it to crack. You're creating a weakened line so when the slab shrinks, and it will shrink, it breaks in a straight line inside the groove where nobody sees it, instead of a lightning bolt across the middle of your patio.
What about the finish? I see people doing the broom finish. Is that just for traction?
Mostly. A smooth troweled finish looks beautiful in a garage, but if you put that on a sidewalk the first time it rains, it's basically a slip and slide. You take a soft bristled shop broom and just lightly pull it across the surface. It gives it a nice uniform texture that won't kill your guests when they walk to the front door.
Okay, so it's done. It looks great. Can I park the truck on it tomorrow?
Absolutely not. This is where people ruin all their hard work. Concrete doesn't dry, it cures. It's a chemical reaction. If it dries out too fast, it stops getting strong. You want to keep it damp. I've been known to cover a new slab with plastic or even spray it with a fine mist for a few days.
And the sealer? The Dirt Monkey was very big on protecting the investment.
He's right, especially if you live somewhere with salt or freezing temps. A good Ceylon siloxane sealer is like a raincoat for your stone. It keeps the water from soaking into the pores. It's the difference between a driveway that lasts 20 years and one that looks like the surface of the moon after 5.
You know, for a beginner project, this sounds like a lot of moving parts. It's not just pour and pray.
It's not, but it's also one of the few things in the maker world that is truly permanent. If I mess up a dovetail, I can throw the wood in the scrap pile. If you mess up a slab, you need a jackhammer and a very expensive trip to the landfill.
So, what's the one thing? If someone is standing there with a shovel right now, what's the piece of advice they need to hold on to?
Don't fight the material. You aren't the boss of the concrete. The temperature and the moisture are. If it's a hot day, it's going to move fast. If it's cold, it'll take all day. Just listen to what the mud is telling you. If it feels too stiff to work, you missed your window. If it's soup, you're too early. It's a dance, Alex. A heavy, gray, messy dance.
I think I'll stick to the tablet and let you handle the heavy lifting. But I have to admit, seeing a perfectly finished slab, there's something undeniably cool about it.
It's the closest a human being gets to creating a mountain, and that's worth a little sweat.
Join us next week on The Tiger Den when we talk about why your welder is smarter than you are.
And why I still have the scar to prove it. See you then.